set.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first session of People Matters. I'm very excited to share this session with you. I'm sure you're all very excited to hear what we have for you in this session. So just before we get into the topic of Metaverse, how is it changing HR and continue to impact the future? Just a little bit of background on this session. When we first put together this People Matters for 2022, one question Gordon and I have been asking ourselves over and over again is what are the topics that people will be curious about? What do you want to know? What are the things that would gather your interest, would bring people to this conference and make them listen to some of our speakers? We took some time to think about it. And at the end, maybe you can see the theme from the conference today as well. At the end, we came to a conclusion. The conclusion to that question is the future. Because we believe that people will always be curious about the future, either future of themselves or future of the marketplace, future of the workplace, or future of their own personal development. And this is all, as you can see from the conference theme, is a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about is about the future. It's about things that we may be doing in the future, or what are some of the opportunities that we may have. So that, so it's a long way to bring us to the topic of today, which is the Metaverse. How is it changing HR and continue to impact the future, right? So Metaverse, I'm sure you have heard about this term over and over again in the past 6-12 months, right? So hopefully through today's session, you will have a much better idea of Metaverse, what it is really, right? What is it? And more importantly, right, because this is a people focused webinar and people focused conference, we wanted to give you a glimpse into how we can use the Metaverse to bridge the gaps between people and people. And also for some of you working in HR, how can we use the Metaverse to bridge the gap between people and their company? And I'll be very honest with you, I'm absolutely not an expert on this topic. I did some reading on it, sure, I play some game once in a while, but I'm not the expert, and this is why we have our guest for today. Our guest today is the expert, is our guest David Kim. So David is the business development manager for Zigbang's new metaverse service, Metapolis. So David is absolutely one of the formal experts when it comes to remote working and how to use virtual office effectively in the workplace. And what we will do today with David is he will share with us their company's journey into the metaverse, how they came to using it, why did they use it, and what is the result, and what's the benefit. And if you guys are good, if you guys are engaging, if you guys stay throughout the whole session, then David promised me that he might even show us a glimpse of the metaverse that they've been working on. So that's very, very exciting, right? So you must stay. I asked him to please put that right at the end, so then they can stay to watch it, right? So a very, very warm welcome to David Kim. So welcome, David. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, Rick. Excited to be here. Thanks for the amazing welcome. Yeah, my name is David Kim, working as a business development manager at Zigbang, which is the leading prop tech company here in South Korea. Yeah.
Great, David. So before we get into the so those you might you might look at David's background and say, oh, what an interesting background. So I think we chat a little bit about this. I think this is like in his background is like a representation of an invitation into the metaverse. But before we talk about your company's Zigbang's journey into the metaverse, how you guys came to be, what was the journey, reason behind the journey. For the benefit of some of our overseas audience who's not quite familiar with your company, would you be able to just briefly explain about your company? What do you guys do?
Sure. So Zigbang is Korea's leading prop tech company. We started off with a real estate listing app where you could post photos of available rooms, and people can come and get connected and search for rooms or apartments within Korea. We've kind of moved on from that, where we've also started brokerages, and you could also have virtual tours of apartments, walk through it. We also have like full 3D renderings of apartments that aren't even built yet, where you could go inside the rooms, walk around, see how the light comes through specific windows in the room depending on the time of day and the season. So we're really trying to innovate the way we look at space through technology.
Great. And so it looks like your company already have some competency when it comes to using 3D technology as a way of doing work, right?
Yes. So that's one of the main reasons it was quite easy for us to pivot over into creating Metapolis, was because we already had quite an extensive development team with gaming backgrounds for that kind of 3D work. And, it was just quite natural for us to kind of pivot over.
Okay. And so I'm just going to get right into it. I think the question on our mind is what exactly is a metaverse?
That's the question on everyone's mind, I think, at the moment, because metaverse is such a hot topic at the moment. You hear everyone using the metaverse here and there. And honestly speaking, it's quite hard to define the metaverse at the moment. I think, the basic definition would be a massively scaled network of real-time 3D virtual worlds. I guess that could be kind of experienced at the same time by a limited number of users. And the most important factor, I think, is having an individual sense of presence. But that's just a definition, text definition. But I think trying to define the metaverse now is kind of like trying to define what the internet is back in the early 90s, because nobody really knew what the internet would become at that time. At the time, it was, if you were able to find a certain site that a certain individual random person made, you'd be able to look at some text on the screen, and that was about it. Who would have thought that we'd be able to connect with people, make payments, create videos, and watch videos that others created. The exponential growth of the internet couldn't be fathomed at that time. And a lot of people thought the internet was a fad and it would just pass by. And it was really hard to grasp what the internet could be. And I feel the metaverse is kind of the same thing. And I think instead of trying to think of the metaverse as a thing or a place, I was sent a tweet by the entrepreneur Shyam Puri, who I think put it very nicely. The metaverse is more of a moment in time where our digital life is worth more to us than our physical life. So trying to define this, I think you could think of it as this way. With 99% of our life used to be the attention that we used to give in life used to be put in the physical world. We would meet people outside in the physical world. We would do work outside in the physical world. But then with the creation of the TV, maybe that dropped down to only 75% of our attention being in the physical world. With computers, maybe down to 60%. With mobile phones, I think it's just so easy to get connected to the internet. We're probably spending more than 50% of our attention on the digital world now. And there's companies like Apple, Facebook, now Meta, creating these glasses that will pretty much have you connected to the digital world 24/7. So that's really that pivotal moment, I think, in the next 10, 20 years, where being going from factories to laptops, boardroom to Zoom calls, our digital life will be worth more to us than our physical, the way we appear in the digital world. Now you have filters instead of makeup, right? So it doesn't matter what we look like in real life. It's more about how we're presented in the digital world. And that's that pivoting that you could kind of see happening. And in the next 5, 10, 20 years, you'll see more of that gradually happening. I think that's really what the metaverse embodies.
I think there's an interesting point when you said that our digital life is very much part of the metaverse. And I think there is definitely, regardless of the generation, there's more emphasis onto our digital life than our personal life to a certain extent. One of the things that Gordon and I used to do a lot for fun is we look into our phone battery screen depending on Android or Apple. And then we look at like in the last 7 days, what app did we use and how long did we, how many hours have we put into it? And we will always find some interesting things like, wow, you almost spent a week on this particular app. Like you spend 40 hours I spend 40 hours on Reddit, which means that I spend almost a whole work week on Reddit. so I definitely echo that the digital life can be more and more important when it comes to our personal life and work as well. I would agree. Yeah.
Yeah, there's research that showed that, I mean, especially for our generation, it's a big shift, but, for like the alpha generation coming after us, there's been research that says that, the kids now are playing more Fortnite than they do playing basketball and tag and football outside. So, for us, it might seem kind of a bit maybe unnatural, but the next generation and the generation after that growing up, they grow up starting off in this virtual world. So
Yeah.
it's not that weird for them to, have their whole life be digitized to a certain extent. I mean, something still will have to be physical, but it's just about there being less of a border between the physical and digital world, I think.
And do you think the transition for them will be much easier? Because I mean, if you're not familiar with gaming, people always have a stereotype of, oh, you stay home and play games all night, you don't talk to your friends. But a lot of the socialization actually happen within games now these days, right?
Yeah. So, games, a lot of social interactions happen in games. Games aren't just about
Right.
going off and doing grand adventures or shooting people. Now, even in Fortnite, people will gather just to chat and have fun. Or I don't know, like recently, go to concerts, festivals like Travis Scott, Ariana Grande all had their concerts in Fortnite, and where people could interact with each other, walk around, So it's a new world. It's still very early for us to say that the metaverse is here, but it's a good starting point now, and I do think that especially the younger generation that come after us, that's just starting off, especially the COVID generation. Kids started growing up in COVID. They can't go outside to play with their kids, I mean, with other kids. So they naturally get pulled into this metaverse type socializing, I guess you could say.
Okay. So we can come back to the Q&A after the session. I think we have plenty of time for the Q&A, but I just want to, I think for the practicality of picking your brains, David, when it comes to people matters. So how exactly does Zigbang got into the metaverse? Like, what was the journey to migrating some of your workforce into the metaverse?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, like many other companies, was the COVID-19 pandemic really kind of propelled us into this stage. Just to give you a short history, when the pandemic hit, we started working from home and essentially doing cloud working, as we would call it. First just through messengers, but that didn't work that great because we felt that the communication cost was a bit too high. When you're in the real world, you could just walk up to somebody and start a conversation. You could to ask a question, or you could see that they're currently busy with work or on a phone call, and you could decide not to go there, or you could walk through the halls and you could meet somebody and be able to start a casual conversation through those casual run-ins. But then once you start doing it just through the messenger, we felt that that was very limiting. So I think the first iteration of our cloud work was we made Zoom rooms. So
Okay.
each team made their own little Zoom rooms, and then everyone would be in the Zoom room while they're working. Of course, it would be minimized during work, and then when somebody had to start a conversation, somebody would be like, "Hey, David," and I'll just pull up the Zoom room and then start talking. But this was very limiting because everyone's in the room together. You can't have one-on-one conversations, two-on-one conversations. So in order to do that, we had to leave the Zoom room, create a new Zoom room, send invitation, get into the Zoom room. So already the communication cost is pretty high just to pivot back and forth between the group and the individual. Whereas in real life, you could just, hey, let's talk over there, walk over, and then start talking, come back into the group. So the next iteration after that was there's also another social platform called GatherTown. So this is a bit more based on like gamified version of the metaverse where everyone is like little pixelated characters, kind of like I don't know if some users might know, like the Game Boy Pokemon, where like you're just a small little character walking around. Yeah, so it's kind of like that. So we created our office in Gather Town, made for pretty much a carbon copy of the physical office that we have. Everyone had their own seats, and we kind of started working there. But the limitations of Gather Town was that first, it felt too much like a cartoon, like a child's game. So it's fun for short time events and things like that. But when you're trying to work there full time, 9 hours a day, just staring at that cartoonish type screen, it wasn't that immersive. And at the time, Gathertown was also not designed to be worked in for 8-9 hours. So it was quite heavy on processors, and the overall user experience for employees wasn't that great. But while we were going through this process of trying to work efficiently when we had to work from home, everyone at Zigbang kind of started feeling that there's really no loss of productivity, or there's nothing wrong with working remotely. So why are we paying for this expensive office when we don't need it? So that's kind of when things started shifting in everyone's mindset. And then Zigbang decided to create our own metaverse office, just because we felt that everything that already existed wasn't geared towards the needs that we had. So it was out of pure necessity that we created Metapolis. And then, because we already had game developers within the company for our other services, it was quite easy for them to start putting things together and making our first iteration of the Metapolis. And yeah, that's pretty much how it started. And then we started kind of testing out the waters, and felt that it was quite immersive, almost quite lifelike as well in terms of interaction. So our company made the decision to get rid of our prime office in the middle of Gangnam once the lease ended. And so currently we have no office in the physical world. But I put the emphasis on the physical world because we do have an office. The location just changed from Gangnam to the metaverse, essentially.
So for my next questions, I think the obvious benefit is not having to rent an office. So there's obviously a cost benefit to using the metaverse. So people, as I would suppose, the finance controlling department will be quite happy with that. But but what about the general colleagues and your people that you work with? What was the initial reaction of migrating the workplace to the metaverse?
I mean, change is always hard.
Yeah.
There's also benefits of not having to get yourself to work every day as well, right? So initial response, I think, will always be mixed, but the overall consensus now is that it's great. Nobody wants to go back to a physical office anymore. Just imagining, even with like the current situation with the numbers rising like crazy, who wants to be in a stuffed bus or metro for 30 minutes to an hour at a time, just trying to get yourself to work, right? Whereas now everyone can, get off bed and then just log on, and you're in your office in a few seconds. So I think the most important factor was that making it company-wide, and instead of an option, just saying this is our new office now, was the most important factor. Just changing that mindset. And also another key factor is kind of the role of our people and culture team was really crucial, where we set up our own protocols, the way that we need to act within the metaverse. Just because it's the virtual world doesn't mean that it's not our office. Just having the same mindset as this is the same as the physical world, we should act as we would in the office. And just having those kind of protocols set by our HR team, I think, was really crucial in that starting moment. And once everything's set in that end, it's just about everyone else just following those rules. And as long as that happens, everyone's quite happy, and it's an efficient office.
So setting the clear expectations on everybody, behaviors, and on the
Yes.
SOP in place is probably one of the most important factor in helping people to migrate onto the new workplace.
100%. I feel if you just present this to your employees and you're like, hey, use this and do what you want to do with it, then nobody's going to use it correctly. Right. And it's going to be hard for people to they'll log in, like, what is this, and log out. But if you just help change that mentality that this is the same as the physical world, and people just start getting used to that, then soon enough, it'll start feeling like the real world as well, which is the case with our company.
That's brilliant. So, and apart from the cost saving benefit of not having to rent an office and the employees drastically cutting their commute times, what are some of the other benefits that your company have encountered by using Metapolis?
Well, I think one of the biggest benefits is that we've been able to retain our company culture. I think one of the biggest fears that people have of going remote, working from home, distributed work, is that, if you're not together, then there's no sense of belonging. There's no company culture. That's one of the biggest fears that people have in pivoting over, and that's also a concern that we had as well. And that's why we wanted to create an environment where, the daily casual run-ins as you're running to the elevator to get to your floor, on your way to work, as you're walking through the hallways, you spot an employee that that you have to ask a quick question, being able to just do that, having that water cooler talk, just being able to casually walk up to each other, talk, have events with each other, I think was one of the crucial factors and benefit that we kind of felt. I think since using the Metapolis, it's actually been easier to meet other people within the company, because there's the benefit of being able to casually walk up to people and talk to them like you would in the real life. But then at the same time, walking up to somebody that you haven't met before could be quite, could give a bit of anxiety, and you could be nervous in real life. Whereas if it's more of an avatar walking up to somebody, it's so much easier because it's something that you do all the time. If you've ever played games, it's not weird for you to walk up to a random person, right? So walking up to a colleague that you're not that close with, the metaverse just kind of makes that much easier. That's one of the biggest benefits that I think I felt, the cultural aspect. Another thing is, because we're no longer constrained by physical space, we could pretty much work from anywhere we want. And I think that's a huge benefit that a lot of employees feel that they have. Like one of my colleagues in my team, he lives in Jeju, but he's been commuting back and forth to Seoul for work every now and then. But now he doesn't really have to do that unless he wants to, because he really doesn't need to commute anymore. Right. A lot of our employees have moved out of Seoul now. Seoul has very high rent prices. A lot of them, they're not from Seoul. They're from different regions around Korea, but they're able to move back home instead of living out and spending money on rent. Move back home, move in with their parents again, which is very common in Korea, by the way. Those of you that are coming in, being an adult and living with your parents is very common in Korea. But to move on, a lot of people move back to their homes. Some people, move to Jeju. Some move to the beach side where they could work while looking at the beach. And we also have employees that are living abroad as well. So location-wise, everyone has a lot more freedom, and also the company has the freedom to recruit people from a much bigger workforce. Before, it used to be constrained to people that would be willing to commute to Gangnam, which is not that big. Right. Max will be the greater Seoul, but usually it will be the south of Seoul, where most people would kind of join a company, or they'll have to move to be able to commute better. Now we've gone to a situation where we could hire from anyone, not just in Korea, but all over the world. And we actually have employees, coming in from India, Singapore, the States. So just our talent pool just got so much bigger.
Yeah, I think Joshua made a comment on like being global remote working is something possible now. I think that you answered that question. Is one of the key benefits is your talent pool from greater Gangnam area to worldwide, and I think that is a that is that I mean, without being exaggeration, that is a competitive advantage for your company, right?
100%, because we have great people, a great workforce in Gangnam, but once you expand that to uh, the whole world, it's a game changer. And even if like somebody who used to live in Gangnam and uh, was working at another company, if they hear that they could join our company and work wherever they want, in terms of hiring, just because hiring right now is really tough to get really good talent,
Yeah.
and this advantage we have is exponential because, for instance, back in December when things were kind of getting a bit better, I actually went to Thailand and I was able to work there for a few weeks. And our company encourages that. They're like, please leave. And now we don't because the situation is a bit worse. But when it was a bit better, they're like, please leave, experience the world. That'll help you with, get more culture, get more experience, and it'll kind of reflect back into your work as well. And that kind of mindset that we have has really been great for not just hiring new talent, being competitive when hiring talent, but retention as well. Because who wants to go back to having to go through all that to get to an office?
So for those of you who do not live in Seoul, Gangnam probably has some of the worst traffic when it comes to rush hour. So this is what David was talking about. Like, who wants to go to the Gangnam office? But just recapping what you have said from my perspective, a couple of things that I were able to uh, uh, get from your sharing when it comes to the benefits. I think the first thing that pop in the top of my head is because for me, I always think about company culture a lot because of what we do in RDI. And we believe that company culture drives a lot of decision makings and ways of working. It seems like Zigbang was able to migrate through the Metapolis because there's almost a culture need for you guys to move on to that because your culture is very much highly collaborative, very much demand, or not not demanding employee. The employee demands the culture to be able to talk to somebody right away, right here, right now, and that really helps encourage people to use the platform because it's actually encouraged and enable them to do what they want to do, which is the culture of Zigbang, right? I think that's my first learning is the culture enable the platform, not the platform enable the culture, or maybe actually both sides a little bit more. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So that's a really good point. Because in the end, communication is the most important factor, in whether that's work or trying to get to, getting a sense of belonging with people. It's all about being able to casually communicate when you need to, instead of having to go through loops and hassles, because that will kind of defer people from trying to communicate as well, right? So that's something that's one of the main factors of creating Metapolis for us. I do think that because of the system, the overall communication rate within the company has really gone up,
yeah.
regardless of us not being together. And I think that's a really interesting factor.
That's really really amazing to see that communication actually gone up while the physical distance actually been further than ever, right? When it comes to the Metapolis. Okay. And so, David, we have a lot of questions. So I'm going to move on to maybe this is what everybody's waiting for, is for you to maybe give us a glimpse onto what how Metapolis actually looks like when it comes to Zigbang. Is it something that I will give you a minute to set up while I'll just very, very briefly skim at the questions?
Sure. Yeah. So I just created a quick video of a walkthrough of Metapolis, just because I want to share it in real time, but I've noticed that when programs are shared in real time through Zoom, it does get a bit laggy and it might not show up too well. So let me just go ahead and bring up the video. So I did kind of edit it down just for time's sake, so I won't be able to touch on everything. But just to give you a glimpse and an idea of how we're utilizing Metapolis and how we have it set up. Just 1 second. All right. How's that looking on your end?
Yep, it's showing. It's not moving yet, but
yes,
yeah, I think that's good.
Yep. Did you want me to start the video?
Can I just check in with the audience? If you let me know if you cannot see the screen of Metapolis, let me know in the chat function. Can you see it, Gordon? Is it showing on your side? It's showing on my side.
Looking good for me.
Thank you, sir. So yes, David, please go ahead.
All right. So yeah, welcome to Metapolis. We're still on a better stage. We're constantly developing and making this better, but this is the iteration we have now. The place you see here is what we call the world. This is where all the different buildings and things would be. The building to our left is the actual building that we at Zigbang go to work with a few other companies. Around 9, Zigbang starts work around 9:30. So from around 9 to 9:30ish, you'll see a bunch of people just spawning here. And around 9:28ish, you'll see a bunch of people running into the building to get to their floor on time, just like you see people running out of the subway station in Gangnam. Here we have the James Webb Telescope that currently got launched by NASA, because why not? It's pretty cool. And we like NASA here at Metapolis. Yeah, you can see some casual seats and tables here in the lobby place as well, because just like any other building, to get to your company's floor, you require access and you have to be part of that company. So each floor is privatized. So for people from different companies to kind of, get talk with each other, they could come down to the lobby and use one of these seats, or even if you just want to get some fresh air with your colleague, come down for some coffee, also come down and chat here. We also have some communal co-working offices and communal lounges that we've created within the building that people, regardless of what company they are at, can use together to collaborate or just network. Yep, so what you see here is our elevator hall. Just like any other building, you have to walk into the elevator hall to change floors, but unlike other buildings, our elevators come very quickly and you don't have to wait in the line. You can see Zigbang here using 4 floors. If you try to get to a floor that's not that you're not a part of, you'll see that you're not authorized to enter. So yep, I work on the 4th floor. So here we are on the 4th floor. We just rode the world's fastest elevator. Get there just on time. So yeah, this is how our office looks. As you can see, if you look in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see there's currently 148 people logged in, and these are actual people, not bots, really working on the floor. You'll see that the table was marked L24. We have all the tables marked because we have our seats assigned to us, but we change that monthly, which is also a benefit of having a desk in the metaverse that you don't have stuff on. So depending on if you have a project with a certain team, or if you just want to get to know another team better, you could ask our culture team and they will assign the seats for you next month, the following month. So that's also a good way to create company culture and mingle with other people within the company. So you'll see that there's a bunch of tables, and the windowed rooms you see on the end are meeting rooms. Because there's so many, it's hard to find. So we have this navigation system where you could find and bookmark certain seats and meeting rooms, and you could go to your bookmarks and click on it to be taken there automatically. This month I am sitting at L5, so you can see I clicked on it, and it's kind of like Tesla's auto drive. It's auto walk to the table, and yep, that's where I work. You can also search for people as well, because you might want to find a colleague to ask them about a certain agenda, or you just want to chat. You can search, click their name, and you'll be taken to that person automatically as well. And the way we communicate is once you get close enough to somebody, you get grouped to that person, and then you can see their camera and you can hear them as well. So yeah, just walk up to a seat to sit down. and you'll see my colleague Hewon casually walk up to the desk, pretending that she is not late. You see her walking over. Hi, Hewon. Yep. So you see, as soon as she got close enough, her camera turned on, and we're currently muted, but if we unmute ourselves, we can start talking. So, instant communication. As soon as she sits down, we can start talking if we want to. Let's say I want to talk to the talent team in regards to a recruit that we're trying to get and how the process is going. Instead of having to send them a message and all that, I could just walk up to the whole team, get connected. We're like, hi, how's it going? Where's my recruit? Thank you. And then walk away and then get disconnected. So I don't have to send them a message. Hey, can you talk? Wait for a reply. Once I get the reply, create a Zoom link, go into the Zoom link, wait for them to come in, just talk to them right away. There's also a bunch of meeting rooms as well.
So David, this is really when you talked about what your employee wants is to be able to walk up to anybody and talk. This is literally walk up to anybody and talk.
Just like in real life, like if you're in the office, if you're far away from somebody, you can't really see them or talk to them. And when you walk up to them, you see them, you can communicate with them easily. So just like you would do in the real office, we physically get up and walk around to talk to each other. So we do have Slack and all the messengers that we kind of use to share files and whatnot. But actual communication, we rarely use these chatting functions. We just get up and talk to each other.
Yeah, that's something, I mean, on the receiving end, I think there's a little bit extra something when somebody actually walk over to you to talk. I think that almost like a little gesture to say, hey, you make the effort to walk over to me to talk to me rather than just an instant messenger, which is ping, where's my report?
100%, and the whole emotion and all of that gets conveyed as well. So which is really important because text, no matter how many emojis and GIFs you use, can never convey what you're truly trying to do in terms of emotion-wise, right? So there's that benefit as well. All right. So what you see in front of you are our various meeting rooms. What we do with the meeting rooms is we've just added the rooms into our Google Calendar. And when we create a schedule, we could just pick a room, and from 3 to 4, I pick a room for my daily meeting, and that room will be booked, and other people will know that it's booked as well, and they can't book it. So I'll show you a visual of actual meeting that we have. So you can see here, it's about 20-ish people. This is a meeting that we have twice a week, the whole Metapolis team. The developers, the brand team, our CEO, Jason, and the Metapolis team all having a meeting together. So we actually have meetings like this. Instead of creating a Zoom room, we just all get together in the meeting room and just start talking. But sometimes when there's too many people, like you can't really see everyone that well. Although when somebody speaks, their face comes to the forefront. So we created this thing called focus mode. If you click focus mode, then you get taken to a Zoom type format where it's much easier to see everyone talking. You could also kind of change the size. Also, what's a meeting without sharing screens, right? Because that's what it's all about. So you can also share screens within Metaverse like so. You can also click the screen and it creates a separate pop-up. So you can kind of drag it around, zoom into where you want to better see the content. You can also full screen the pop-up and just concentrate on the content itself. Yep. So we also created a new feature last month called speech mode, which you can see here. So speech mode allows you to speaker to give a speech to the whole floor. So essentially, you're able to share your audio and video content, as well as share a screen, as you can see behind. And anyone can click the screen and have that pop-up come up as well. So it doesn't matter how far off you are. So here you can see our CEO, Jason, giving a town hall meeting, and another employee just turned on their speech mode to ask a question. So, multiple speakers can speak at the same time. And yeah, you see there's like more than 300 people here just having a casual town hall meeting. So yeah, you can use this for town hall meetings. Conferences like these can also be done here. You can hold events. Just yesterday, we had our first Metapolis concert because we have an employee who has a few singles out, and he graciously agreed to sing in front of the whole crowd. So that was also pretty fun. You could also hold events here if you want. Forward. Yep, this is our culture team holding a New Year event. All the employees are here together. I added this in so that you can see when everyone's dispersing just how many people were here all at the same time. This is all real people just physically here in this space all together. So yeah, we're constantly adding these different features just to enhance our working environment, and it's always about how can we make it more like an office, and how can we create that office experience here. So I think soon we're also going to have a event hall be completed soon, and people could have their own little events there in like whether it's TED Talks or concerts or events, or your corporate all hands meeting. Instead of having it in an office like that, you could hold it in the event hall. Yeah, so that's, I guess, kind of the video that I want to share, just to give that look and feel of Metapolis and how we're utilizing it.
I think the chat is exploding with excitement, and we are receiving a lot of Q&As from the video itself. So we will get to your question in a minute. So David, what's next then? I understand that this is a platform entirely developed in-house from Zigbang. Is it something that clearly a lot of our audience are very curious about this platform? Somebody asked, how do we build this? Can I use this? So what's next for Zigbang when it comes to Metapolis?
Yeah, so currently it's in the beta stage. While we do have users, we have beta users at the moment, actual real companies that are interested in trying to utilize our platform to go fully remote. Or it could also be some companies also, instead of going remote, they want to use this as a branch. So they have a branch in Seoul, they have a branch in London, in Sydney, and now they have a branch in the Metaverse. And where different people from different branches in different countries could kind of get together and work together there. That's also some implementation that we're having as well. So we're using a lot of these beta testing companies to kind of figure out what we can refine, what the actual needs are of different companies that are different from ours. And so if you're interested in seriously implementing this sort of working environment, whether that's you want to go fully distributed work, remote work, or you want to create a branch, a virtual branch, feel free to contact us and we could kind of talk about what your needs are and if we could implement that. But yes, we're going to keep developing this and hopefully go to market maybe in the second half of this year, and have everyone work in the metaverse.
So hypothetically speaking, now this is we need to talk. I need to talk to Gordon about this. We could be having People Matters 2023 on the metaverse.
That's not hypothetically. That's what it's gonna be.
but budget talking hypothetically.
We could work something out, I'm sure.
Great, I'll take your word for it. So thank you, David. There's a really fantastic demonstration of what the metaverse is. And if you wanted to get in touch with David, we'll share with you his contact details in a moment. And you can also find his LinkedIn contact on the event page, I think. Let's get into Q&A, shall we?
All right, let's do it.
Oh, so Gordon, you've been helping me to pick out some questions. Can I bring you into the fray?
Sure, absolutely. Got a lot of questions that have come up here. So maybe we can do a couple of quick fire ones. What's the max capacity of the Zigbang Seoul office?
So currently, our current floor, we've set it to 288 for that one floor, but then there's different types of offices. And to be honest, it's the metaverse, right? It's virtual. There is no max capacity. Depending on certain needs that a company would have, you could make it so that the capacity is bigger. Let's say you want 1,000 people on one floor. I'm not sure why anyone would want that, but if you do, we'll work something out and create that for you. in the future, customization such as that will be possible. Currently, it's because we're in beta stage, you're using as is, but we are creating a catalog of customizable furniture. Will be in the next phase. So the different business models that we're kind of tinkering with is being a user world where you could kind of use the common spaces, kind of like a hot desk at a WeWork or one of those co-working spaces, or having your own personal office that's pre-built and you could use as is, or customizing the furniture and everything you have in there through our catalog, or maybe even creating your own HQ building within our world is also possible things that we're kind of getting prepared for in the future.
Okay. People are also seem to be quite interested in the global aspect, whether that's people working in other countries. How do you manage with that? Also hiring foreigners in Korea with the like language side of things. Can you just there's several questions around that. Maybe what is your current status in terms of locations, and if you are in other locations, how are you managing that, both with even kind of language side of things, as well as their actual where are they actually hired, where are they actually kind of employed by, if they're in another country and another jurisdiction?
Yeah, so I guess payroll and tax, that isn't my expertise area. It's more, I'm more, I guess what I do is more on this actual space of the metaverse, but there's a bunch of solutions out there that help with that, whether that's remote. There's like a solution called remote.com. There's also something called Deal, where it actually helps companies hire from abroad. So that's some solutions that you could look into if you're trying to hire from abroad. In terms of language, there is that language barrier, I guess, because mainly Korean speakers, but that's something that we're also looking into. How do we implement and change ourselves to make ourselves more global? Whether that's changing all our names from Korean to English, the way that we structure the company, the way that job titles are done, that's all something that we're looking into changing and revamping, and that's also work in progress for us as well. We're even looking into technology where you could, we're not sure if we can implement it yet, but real-time translation within the metaverse is also a big possibility as well. So it's all something that's a work in progress at the moment.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. We've got another question about the reluctance for going fully virtual, right? Certain teams, certain types of work that maybe the person who's questioning is saying are just better by being co-located as opposed to in a remote setting, or even like the personal situation of some employees who cannot work from home. How are you addressing that at Zigbang?
Yeah, so here at Zigbang, of course, there's certain types of employees that can't be remote. That's just the fact of life at the moment. No matter how we try to spin it, in the future it might change, but we have those type of employees as well. So Zigbang at the moment, we actually have a few lounges around the greater Seoul metropolis, where you could kind of casually just walk in and work. All equipped with IoT, so we just go into our little chat, and then we tell the chatbot, hey, open, let's say, open RDI room number 1, and then the doors would just open and we could just go in and work there. So there's we have those things set up. Another thing that we're kind of preparing now is these things called Metapolis, maybe pods. So there'll be like 1-person pod, like really nicely fitted out working stations, and you go into maybe an office and there'll just be a bunch of pods there, and you just go into one of those that you want to use. This is like for our employees that have kids at home, have too many pets at home, or their internet isn't working that great, it's not set up. So people could kind of come into those pods and just get their work done, and we might also take that to market. But that's something that we're planning. But currently what we're doing now, especially for remote workers, is we have a stipend that allocate to each employee, especially when they join the company, and they have a certain budget that they could use to allocate that to creating their remote work environment, whether that's, buying a desk, buying a chair, allocating that to a better router instead of buying a webcam. That's something that the company actually provides so that everyone could be equipped to be working from home.
I think that's a great point, and it's clear that you guys haven't just trying to bash the technology through and get it done. You do seem to be taking very good care of your employees in all aspects. I particularly like that what you mentioned about having these spaces, these physical spaces as available. I think that's a great compromise, to have that mixed use. We also have a couple of questions a bit more on the technical side. How do you control or manage the system stability and user employee experience?
System stability is, we just have really great developers working very hard to get
In-house.
things in-house, all in-house, yes. Constantly hiring good talent as well to maintain the service. So we have a great team at the moment, and we're just constantly building upon. It's also about getting constant feedback. That's why we're running all these tests with so many. We have 20+ beta testing companies currently at the moment from different industries and different types of functions and working environments. Because we can't just base this program off of how we used to use it at Zigbang. Although we created it for ourselves, if we want to take it to market, we have to see, oh, this worked for us, but this didn't work for this company because they do it this way. And just being very open to that type of feedback from these different testers is, I think, the most crucial part in refining the actual office to present a great experience for everyone.
I think just
Eric, I think you had a question.
No, I just want to comment on that. Maybe David, you can confirm, because of there seems to be a really seamless policy implementation from the people side of things and also the technology, the UX, the UI part of it, getting feedback. So your people team, your HR team, how close do they have to work with the actual technical side of the things, right?
So the people team, I think, work very closely with our team, and we would be the main point of contact in talking with the developers and our product owner in creating those experiences. But the people aspect is very crucial because it's the people team that are sending out this message, and it's the people team that actually set the mood for how people utilize this and how they feel while they're utilizing this. So I think having that precedent with the people team and making sure that they are able to be aligned with how the company wants the culture to be made within this virtual office is what would make or break the actual experience within the Metapolis.
Absolutely. We are quickly running out of time. Do you have some questions that you think need to be answered, Gordon?
I think one of the broader topics which covers a few questions is that David and the team, that they have developed this in-house, and actually, as he mentioned, are actually looking to how to actually turn this into a service in the future. So questions around how to implement this, how to do it, etc. Detailed questions like that, then absolutely can be. We can forge the connection on the contact on that point. I guess one of the key ones for me is which I don't think we covered, which was what about the kind of like the backlash? Is there any kind of way in which people have felt negative towards this? I mean, watching that demo, like amazing, like I would just love to operate in that, but what have been some of the feedback or challenges that you've come across with it?
I guess feedback, backlash, I'm not sure if it's backlash, but some of the pushback that or questions that I get when I kind of give the tours to other companies is people notice that we all have our cameras on when using Metapolis. And that's one of the things that we kind of set internally to have our camera. Our policy is camera on, speaker on, and mic muted. And the point of this was that if you have your camera off, then it really is no point in being in Metapolis, because when people walk up to you and your camera's off, they don't know that you're there. So you have to go through that process of sending that message, hey, are you there? Can you talk? Going back and forth. So that's not instant communication. And people think, oh, if I have my camera on, is someone always, like, I feel like I'm always being like under surveillance or things like that. But the truth of it is, like, unless you're grouped together, nobody really sees your face. And a common thing that we like to say in our team is, if you have Metapolis on all the time and you're looking at Metapolis all the time, then you're not really working, right? This is an office. If you're in the office as well, you're sitting together, you'll see each other's faces, I guess, if you're directly staring at someone, but usually you're looking at your computer screen. So Metapolis is usually not on the forefront of everyone's screens. It's usually minimized or in the background, and you have either your Chrome browser or your Excel sheet in the front, and you're working on that. So nobody's really looking at you, and nobody's really surveilling you per se. So I think that's one of the pushback questions that we get quite a lot, is like, I feel like I'm being surveilled, but that's really not the case.
I think we have time for one more question. I think that, let me just go ahead and we are actually running out of time. We do have another session coming up next, but what I can do is I can collect your questions. I have the record here, and maybe I can send it over to David. He can answer that, and I'll get back to you guys in the near future. But David, we ran out of time. It looks like it is a topic that we can have 2 hours talking about, and we have another 2 hour of Q&A, another hour of Q&A. But thank you so much for joining us today and sharing part of what your company is working on and working in when it comes to the Metapolis.
No, thank you for having me and giving me and the team opportunity to share what we're working in right now. Like Eric mentioned, that anyone that has any questions or you're interested in implementing Metapolis, maybe trying beta test it, feel free to reach out. We do also have the networking session later on, which I'll be a part of if you want to join that and talk to me a bit more further as well. So yes, thank you, everybody.